4, 3, 2, 1. Walk with me through the cellar door.
A storm is coming, Fred says.
A portal to a more skeptical world.
Cellar Door Skeptics begins right now. Prepare for the revolution with your hosts, Christopher Tanner and Chris Hanna.
Oh, welcome to Cellar Door Skeptics. Thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It's going to be an amazing show. It's going to be the last show of the year where we have all 4 of the hosts on the show. We have one special episode that no one else knows about that we recorded in secret last Sunday. Ooh. Just Hannah and I. So we're doing a Hannah and I special just because we can, I guess, because it's been forever and we talked for a long time about doing some of these different things. So Hannah and I did a show for everybody that if you're a Patreon, we actually released it to the Patreons a week early. So if you are a Patreon, you can get access to it. You're the only ones that have access to it. If you're not, I can tell you what, if you click anywhere in the show notes, or if you look below, it'll tell you where to find us to support us on Patreon. Anyway, without further ado, welcome to the show. Hansel, the engineer. Buddy, the lumberjack. Okay. And Boyce, the mathematician. How are you all doing tonight, sirs?
Delicious, I guess. I don't know. I'm in the middle of like 10 days of thoroughly cooking my liver, so it's I might be well roasted by the time this the holiday season's over and ready to be just tossed on a slab.
Fair enough.
Pickled liver. I think that's a delicacy in some countries. I'm not gonna lie. As long as it's not a bear liver, you don't want to like OD on B12 and die. I mean, I guess that might be more of a Canadian problem, but
it might be.
I'm peachy.
There you go. You're peachy.
Oh, were we supposed to study for that test?
I don't know. Maybe. Anyways, thank you all for joining us tonight. Tonight we are going to. I don't know if it'll be a censored episode or not. I guess when we get through the episode, you'll find out. But we are going to talk about a couple of different things. So. What I really wanted to do tonight is kind of talk a little bit about surviving the holidays. I want to talk about a really amazing science article I found about evolution. Of course, we've been covering all the candidates and, updating them. And I think we're going to hold off on that just because I want to hold off for right now on having a conversation about any more of the candidates till the new year. And we're going to get right back into that. That's just, it's one of those things we started and we'll finish it off, but I'm really going to wait off till the new year because Trump's impeachment is something that I really want to talk about tonight. Given that there's been a lot of different updates, people have different opinions about it. A lot of the Republican friends on my Facebook page are literally pooping all over anybody that thinks impeachment is necessary. So I wanted to have that conversation tonight. And then, of course, we're going to end the show with what we want to see in the new year, because I think it's important if we don't have goals for the new year, what are we going to do? And I was recently on a podcast or a video cast. I don't know. Is that what we call
vlogcast?
Vlogcast?
Vlogcast? I don't know. Boyce, what do you call it? That's your shtick.
Video.
I was just going to say maybe your genome was dumped into the internet a couple hours ago. That's about as close enough. I can keep it right now.
No, that's just the amount of porn you look at, Hannah.
That's what it is.
Yeah. Maybe it is. But the thing that I was on was called electronic town halls, e-town halls.
I'm sure those are really quiet. I bet you you can hear a pin drop on those. I bet
you might be able to. So I was actually just recently on this show, and if you have not seen them, you really should check them out. Only for the pure fact of listening to me. And I only say this because this gentleman is very unique. he works for an organization called We the People, the Real Democracy. And I had a really good time, honestly, chatting with him. And it was kind of funny because when we got together, I think, he picked us, or me, our show specifically, because he's like, oh, you guys talk about, being very, very progressive and different things like that. But this was literally a non-edited show. You could see in the background there, you could see like all my stuff in the background. I didn't even hide any of it because I thought he was going to edit the video down. He did. But in reality, though, I really like this guy's style of show. And I say that because we had a very open, and frank dialogue once we kind of got into the show. And we actually were talking about things that we don't get to talk about on this show. So we were actually talking, he wants to get rid of democracy and go to 100% electronic vote by everybody in the country. So he wants to demolish and go to a complete popular vote.
Well, that's literally the definition of democracy: one person, one vote. Like
Yes.
he wants to get rid of the representative republic. He wants to go direct to a single person, single vote scenario.
Yes.
So he's going to abolish the electoral college, everything.
Yep.
I mean, on the one hand, yeah, the electoral college really screws things around, but also I think there's a big problem with the idea of a popular vote, and specifically because you're dealing with a large nation like the United States. You guys have over 300 million people. You've got different climates. You've got different areas with different regions, different resources, all that sort of thing. And I just think that that's a great way for people to kind of feel like they're being overlooked. And I mean, we constantly see that in politics as it is, and politicians seem to win by playing off of that. But it does kind of mean that you only need to pander to specific interests. And I just think that that's kind of a slippery slope, especially in a large area. But just, trying to think outside the box.
Is that something that you guys went over in the show?
A little bit, yeah. We touched there. He's pretty sold on that idea. I'll be frank and just say they're very sold on that specific idea. So there wasn't as much dialogue about it. We did, though, eventually dialogue about, okay, what happens in all these different types of scenarios. So, so for example, I brought up, hey, what's going to happen when you have all these bills, right? How many bills do you have that you're literally going to have to vote on? And can you imagine voting on 100 bills a day or 50 bills a week or whatever the heck is the average that the House and Senate and stuff like that vote on? Oh, and by the way, then you have your own state to vote in too. So, we talked about a lot of that. And there were, they have a good idea on how to get rid of the fake democracy and the capitalistic idea. And that's why I went on there, is because they're extremely pro eliminating a lot of the different types of how capitalism influences democracy. And he doesn't even want to call it democracy because capitalism influences it. Him and I disagreed on that a little bit. If you get into the first about 20 minutes, I will not concede his point.
Yeah.
I won't give him that. But we do. But we do go through a lot of that. And I think it's interesting because, when I sit down and we do these shows, right? How many times do we talk about, well, Tanner is usually the farthest left person on the show. Like, I'm a pretty far left individual, like I support even a little bit more outrageous stuff than a lot of people do. And sitting down with this guy, I look conservative. To some extent, like I felt a little conservative compared to this guy.
He's playing the anarchism on there. Like, he's really wants a state of nature, single person, single vote, state of nature, state. So really it comes down to what is it? It would be the most basic, what do they call it? What is it when the union, when you're out of the state of nature, the social contract, the very first social contract, leaving the state of nature, is what he's looking for. Essentially, we've all decided that we're going to be in a group, in a community, and we're going to make decisions based on that, from the ground to that first location. It gets incredibly complex, but in the end, like, that's kind of like where he's going, and that is about as far to the left as I can imagine you going.
Yeah. So I don't know. I thought, like I said, it was a very fun show. The founder of that organization, the E-Town Halls organization, I believe we're going to have on our show probably sometime in the new year. His name's David Frank. We'll kind of see how that goes, but that's some of the discussion that we were having. after the show is, hey, he's like, hey, you should have this person on here, and he gave me a whole list of names of all these different people. So I figured what I do over the holiday break is go through some of their different videos, some of their different things, and kind of like look into it to say, hey, this is what we want to do, or this is not what we want to do. So
Cool.
Anyway, so I posted a link in the description of the show, so you'll be able to check it out. Anytime you want, you can go through and check out our video. We posted it up. I haven't been given permission to post it on our YouTube channel, where I'm just directing everybody to his site for now. But you can definitely see it on our Facebook page and everything like that. Anyway, so without further ado, I think we should get into the show, right? And I think we should start talking about how do we survive the holidays. And we've talked before on the aspect of the religious side of things, right? You know, and that's definitely, Hannah, not how we would do that. You've obviously had too much vodka tonight.
Well, not enough.
None.
Or not enough.
Not enough. Not
I mean,
enough.
you were making nooses on the pre-show, and now you're blowing your brains out. So
yeah. So secretly, this is also the intervention episode for Hannah.
It's like that Rick and Morty show, right? Where Rick is in Little Rick, right? And he's like, "I'm Tiny Rick," and every time he like sings a song, yeah, there you go. He has to do this thing.
I'm screaming for help.
I've just been bathing in some of my favorite comedy of late, Doug Stanhope and guys like that. So it's been particularly dark, getting a lot of jokes and stuff like that. That I remember I was telling some people, I was like, "Oh, this is one of my favorite jokes about suicide and how it's not actually a cowardly act." It's like if someone walked up across the bar or something and they told someone, it's just like, you're gonna kind of want to dance on the next slow song. I'm not really good at this. Boom, just like that would be the cowardly act. And his comedy is just so dark. I've just been swimming in it. I finished the Dexter audiobooks, and so I've had to listen to something in my car. And I can't do the holiday FM terrestrial radio with the screaming, car sales ads and everything else. So I've just dove into a memory stick full of pirated comedy.
Well, Hannah, that's why we wish you a metal Christmas and a headbanging New Year. The heavy metal super album of Christmas songs featuring Testament singing Silent Night. I don't know who.
Ooh, I would listen to that. I did not know Testament did that.
Oh yeah, he did that. Alice Cooper sang Santa Claus is Coming to Town. Ronnie James Dio's in there. Like, we're talking the heavy metal greats sing a bunch of Christmas songs. So, if you're looking for something to get you through the holidays, check it out.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because we say that, right? My buddy, my buddy gave me a black metal Christmas album, and they literally released it for free. And they were like, "We are going to give this to you for free because we don't want to fucking profit off it like all those capitalist whoremongers."
Oh my god!
But they literally take, and it's literal black metal, like extreme black metal, and they just re-sing all the Christmas songs, all the religious ones, and it's just like it's extremely lo-fi, very very.
We sang this into a headphone set.
I freaking, that makes me so happy. Like,
I'll get you the name of it after the show. And then they also have this other band that's a grindcore band that does the same thing. They sing Christmas songs to grindcore music. So you can't understand 80% of the lyrics except for when he does the jingle bells. Like, when he does jingle bells and grindcore, like, you just go, all right, it's my new favorite song right there.
Hey, Cookie Monster singing Jingle Bells.
Oh no.
Just even like, let's say your favorite musician still singing Christmas songs. I just don't. I'm sure like some of those are songs like, oh, that's a pretty cool song, and I would listen to it one time, and then I would never like intentionally go back there again. I just don't like holiday music. I do not like, even if it's in the best genre version. I just never been able to get into it. It's like this. We were talking earlier about cover bands and stuff like Frog Leap Studios.
Yes.
They do some great stuff, and like I heard some really cool things come out of there. I listened to it one or two here or there, but like in the end, I just like any of the holiday music stuff. I just can't do it. Maybe it's the Grinch in me when it one of the running jokes is I just this time of year for me, I just get dark.
I just
blacking out so bad.
I just want to like defend the Grinch for just half a second here because I'm sorry, like I would hate the world too if there was always some asshole singing about what a horrible person I am, narrating my life. Like I would hate everyone too. So can we just get that out there?
The funny thing too, with that, we were this weekend. I took the kids and the wife out to Frankenbooth, Christmastown, right? Because we're looking for some older ornaments that we bought that got ruined in the move, and we're like, hey, screw it. She's like, let's go do something. And I'll tell you, it's not a cheap town. I just tell you, I spent a lot of money that I didn't want to spend per se, but we did, and we had a really good time. They have an amazing fried chicken place there that's just like off the charts, the best. I did not have to eat dinner tonight. We'll just put it that way.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
Oh yeah, and it's Germantown. And the funny thing was, is we went into this actual mill, this wool mill, and they were handing out tokens to their history museum. So we actually got to walk through the Frankenbooth history museum for free. Like we were going to pay the $2 to go in. We didn't have to. We walked in for free, and it was really funny because it's super religious, right? Like the reason they founded this town in Michigan is because they wanted to preach to the Chippewa American natives, right? And it's like, oh my God, this is going to be awful to walk through, but I'm going to do it because I like history and I just want to know how awful these German people were. And
it's our shared history.
It is. We get through it, and like halfway through it, the lead pastor that was founding this, he married a single mother with a 5-year-old, and all the church got pissed, I guess, but okay, back in the 1800s, man, that was unheard of. You didn't do that. He did that. So that's pretty fucking liberal, man.
Yeah, she had already like had relations. She was, like a Scarlet Letter worthy whore. and then there you go. Then they were talking about the beer. They were talking about all this, like they have their own breweries and everything. And I'm sitting here going, okay, well, I still am against them preaching to the natives, but it's a little bit cooler that they were, bringing over and violating some of the church orthodox. Or maybe in Germany, it was just a known thing. You drank and went to church. It was like, whatever,
Yeah,
actually,
monks and religious folks in breweries and all that kind of stuff are very common throughout European history. It's one of the things that they would travel with the what do they call it, with the missionaries. Just the ability to brew their spirits from their hometowns and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, like whatever spirit you just imbibe there to give you a twitching epileptic fit. I don't understand. You drinking paint thinner in there again? No. It's like saving money, drinking the leak.
Well, when I was in Germany back in 2005, I took this tour and I learned some very interesting things about the city of Munich. In German, in the German language, they call it München, which translates into monks because it was settled by monks who loved their beer. In fact, that city's culture is so founded upon beer that the types of trees that were planted were picked specifically because their roots were shallow and would not get into cellars. That is how dedicated these people are to their beer. And
have you seen Beer Fest? Das Boot.
I've been there. I've been to many beer fests in Germany. I didn't get to go to Oktoberfest, but I've been to beer festivals, and from what I think I remember, they were great. The beer was amazing at first.
Little Bavaria towns and stuff like that are interesting. I actually don't mind some of the stuff that in some of those cities they have restrictions on encroachment from basically middle American capitalism. It's like Walmart wasn't allowed into the in any of Frankenmuth's general vicinity because it would violate the whole reason the city has a massive tourism board and a lot of clout. They're the number one tourist city, I believe, in the state of Michigan. And so besides like Traverse City and some of those other ones that are close up, second, third, whatever, but they wouldn't let some of these giant mega stores. And I thought that was pretty cool that they were just like, let's stick with the small businesses, small local community and stuff like that. That kind of stuff is cool. I do find myself I find myself just glazing over when it's like, let's go to Frankenmuth and shop to the trinket stores and we can buy trinkets. I just
it was fun,
but their festivals are cool. They do a snow fest, so they do sculptures and stuff out there. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah, we just hadn't been there in a long time, and I've been on the road basically for the last 6 months, and it's looking like I might go for another 6 months, and
And
so
you're laughing at me simulating suicide?
yeah, well,
6 months on the road, man.
Yeah, but that's the difference between you and him, Hannah. Is he gets off on the masochism. For you, it's an inconvenience. Like there's the difference.
I don't know about
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry, kink shaming. I shouldn't do that. It's
Yeah, you shouldn't do
2019.
that.
Autoerotic asphyxiation. That's Tanner's thing, apparently.
Ugh.
Sorry.
All right, moving on. Tangent.
What was the
Cast.
What was the NXS song? I can't remember.
All right. Anyway, so boys,
It ain't
talk
pretty.
about surviving the holidays, seeing as everybody wants to continue down tangent trail. We're not even get to the show about impeachment. Like I posted about impeachment. Stop flashing your light. We got to talk about surviving the holidays. So, boys, why don't you kick it off, because I know you have a lot of family that may not think like you, both religiously and politically, and you volunteer for a very large organization that wants to put a specific individual in power.
Yes. Well, me and my family don't do jack shit for the holidays because they all about church and I ain't. So we don't get together. Literally, I haven't done anything with my family in probably, how old is my daughter? 16. Probably about 14 years.
Really?
Yeah, we don't get together on the holidays at all. No, I just go on about my business. I put a pizza in the oven and call it a day. I don't do
boys,
nothing,
if you would like to come up to Zeeland, Michigan, you're welcome
no,
to
I
come
don't
to
need
our
no
holidays.
GD pity party, boy. No.
Ooh,
No, I get I just get one day off of work, so it's like I got to work all the other days, so it's just like one day I don't have to work. It's awesome. Other than that, it's just not a big deal. My daughters, my boys, and my girls come over. So the routine is they always stay the night at their mom's house because they have a routine with it. Because I don't do Christmas trees and lights and shit either. I just act like it's not happening. I give them $50 and we go to the shelter and serve lunch.
nice.
But they go to their mom's and wake up there with the Christmas tree and their presents, the whole, cultural routine. And I go get them at lunchtime and we go do our thing. So that's how I survive it. I just do my own thing and try and do some outreach have my kids realize what $50 looks like. If you're on the side of that serving line, $50 go a long way. That's about all I do. I don't buy presents, so. Now you want to talk about?
I thought Hannah was a Grinch. Shit, you're a bigger Grinch than he is.
I would say no because
he
goes and he helps others. He dedicates his day to helping others. So I think that's
spirit of someone. The true spirit of someone dying in the spring, if it's biblically accurate.
Definitely not.
If I didn't have a family and was allowed that, that's probably what my holiday season would look like. But when it comes to making those relationship compromises, my family and all that kind of stuff does it. We don't do a big crazy wild thing with my side of the family. My wife's side of the family does a bit more of the big family gathering. My family keeps it it's more just like a dinner and then we'll bounce around to see a couple other people, but it's pretty low key. And then shopping is also relatively low key. That's the way I like it. Like if you're going to give a gift or two, it's cool. I have this year kind of a fall behind, but like usually I try to make things for people as, a machinist and engineer. Like I like to make things, make gifts. I made earrings and necklaces for all the ladies in the family, stainless steel, and polished them, did all kinds of cool stuff there. I made multiple things for my wives, from rings to bracelets to all kinds of stuff. And so like to me, like if you're doing something for the holiday gift giving thing, if you make it a little bit more than just a purchase, it makes it mean more. And so like this year I haven't really had the opportunity to buckle down, and I don't have a machine shop anymore and all those kinds of things. But like that for me, that's always how the holiday stuff has been. It's just is there a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears in your gift that makes it a little bit more easier to deal with. So my Grinchiness.
Well, I've out Grinched you this time.
Yeah.
I got a streak going.
How about you, buddy?
I have a. It's so funny.
He sits on a shelf and he does creepy ass things. Is what he does.
I'm like the elf on a shelf.
Don't look at me.
It's in your coffee now.
Skittles.
I'm taste the mother flipping rainbow. Well, my wife and I, my wife is Filipina, and in the Filipino tradition, they have Noche Buena, which she's going to give me the death eye if I mispronounced any second here, which is on December 24th. Now, anybody who knows the Philippines knows it's predominantly Roman Catholic, so Christmas is huge for them. They consider the Burr months, which is September, October, November, December. I know, right? Genius. All about Christmas. So they start getting excited Christmas, around September. But for them, the big deal is Christmas Eve, December. Oh, I know. I see your face, Hannah. I know it can be a little overwhelming.
Sure.
Fortunately, it's I've made peace.
Lube, lots of lube,
tiny fist. Speaking of kinks, and so for them it's December 24th. Now my wife is involved with her church, so go to that, and then we celebrate with her family. So there's usually a big feast, some gift swap on Christmas Eve, and then the next morning, of course, back to church for that, and then we go and hang out with my family, which really worked out perfectly. So there's not a lot of fighting amongst who gets to go where, all of that. Which is kind of nice because I grew up with my family constantly fighting about where Christmas was going to be. Of course, my brother and I being the only grandchildren on either side, trying to figure out, okay, well, which family do we all have to go see this year or that year? And it got a little overwhelming. But I've got Jack to help me get through the holidays. If you're looking to survive.
Brings back the George Thorogood. I drink alone.
Well, I'm technically not alone when I'm drinking, so I'm just drinking alone.
Yeah, I've got 12 hours on the road this holiday season. It's probably a minimum. Like that's a best case scenario. No murder on the highway. Me being clean and clear all the way to all of the. Usually add an hour to each trip. So 4 hours to East Michigan, 2 3/4 to 3 hours to over to West, and then another 4.5 back down, and then add an hour to each one of those for stops and toddler underwear, diapers, and all that. So I bought a minivan because middle America, and now I'm going to drive for more than half of a day.
I love that you're talking about driving a minivan while we're on the Stone Sour. I'm not gonna lie, I think that's pretty great. Yeah, that's basically like my holidays. And this year I actually almost had to work Christmas, so I had to do some gymnastics to make sure that I got the day off. Tanner, I think it's your turn.
Yeah. So on my side, it depends because on my wife's side, they don't all get together for the most part. They do a little bit here and there. Like my wife's sister wants the girls to get together, but they haven't planned a Christmas at all. And so supposedly they're gonna go over there, and if they do, that'll be great. Usually it's just her and the girls that go out there, see the cousins. Sometimes we go out there, sometimes we don't. Usually with her mom, we'll go up and see her mom one of the days. Around Christmas, I invite her mom doesn't like to come to my parents' house, so that kind of avoids it. But for the most part, when I go to her mom's, the most that we have to avoid is grandma, who's 97 years old this year, and her like either passing out in a chair or listening to the TV at 200 decibels. So like going up there is pretty easy. We all get along politically for the most part, and it's not a big deal. Going to my parents' house, I've learned to let my wife talk politics and for me to just sit in the back seat, because the wife and I are very similar in politics, and she's nicer. And for whatever reason, my dad doesn't want to argue with her the way he does with me. So like when they say things, usually I just kind of look at her, say, "Are you going to answer this? Because if you don't, I'm going to have to say something." And you know what's going to happen.
I've had it up here.
Yep. Usually at that point, the wife just kind of like, she'll say the things nicer than I will because I don't care. Like if I burn the bridge with my family, like I'm just who I am. Either you like me or you don't. Like that's just the way it is. Like, and I don't go out of my way to be pissy with them. It's just kind of like if my dad says something that I disagree with, I'm going to call him out for it. It is what it is. And like they've said, like for one time they said something like anti-gay, and I was like, nope, I'm going to correct this. And then usually it gets really quiet, and then they change the subject because they don't want to deal with me. But I've learned that if I just let my wife handle it, most of the time she sets up and says something, and I accept when she interjects and when she doesn't, and I just stay out of it. And then there's a lot of time in the bathroom. So like I go to the bathroom a lot because there's a flask in my pocket.
Just do it. Just do those.
Oh,
no, definitely not
that's
that.
What that was. I thought that was definitely a joke.
No, I have. Well, sometimes, probably.
Sometimes
not.
it helps.
Yeah.
Those
I don't disagree.
Potatoes, man.
But usually, like I got a flask, I go deal with it that way, or I go sit in the living room and watch sports, which I have no interest or care for. It's there. And that's kind of, the way it is. And then what we do with, some of that is I'll take it and then we'll play board games. So we can avoid a lot of the political discussion. And the only religious stuff that ever comes out, honestly, ever, is the discussion of prayer. And they pray, and that's it. And I just accept it, and I usually have to like hit my kids in the back of the head a little bit to say, hey, stop talking during prayer. I know we don't do this at home, but shh, it's nice to not have that conversation. So I don't know. There was an article I read that had a whole bunch of different links that you can check out. A lot of it talks about avoiding the discussion of politics, changing it, being courteous to people. And I guess I will always say this two different ways. You get to choose your family. If you don't want to hang out with your family, Boyce is a perfect example. There's zero reasons you have to do that. And there should be no shame in not doing that. And I'll give Boyce a little bit of shit because I kind of thought that I'd get a little more out of it. But hey, you know what? Whatever works for him, works for him. And it's not my place to judge. And I understand if you do, you can choose your family and you can choose what you do. But sometimes, unfortunately, we're not able to change people. And if it doesn't work, don't force the situation. It's not worth it. It's just not.
The only time I ever had any issues, like I don't look for the fights, but they'll like go out of their way sometimes to put little jabs in. So like there's like it's always the same thing every year. It always happens Thanksgiving and during Christmas when we do like a family dinner or something. It's like, oh, we might have Chris do the prayer. I might have Chris do the dinner prayer, and I was like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, I got a lot.
I'll do it.
I'll
do it. I got no trouble doing that. And then like, oh, okay, Grandpa, go ahead and take this. So it's like, yeah, you want me to do it? I will just sit here and talk about Carl Sagan for 20 minutes and watch your turkey get cold. Because that's what you want to do. And like most of the time, they just like little jabs here and there. But I just kind of let it roll.
You can't be mad at your grandpa because every time your grandpa's come to your house, he's brought good scotch every time. So like
he does like, rock and.
I'll say, you want me to say the prayer? I'll say the Lord's Prayer. I'll do all of this gibberish. Hand me that freaking $200 bottle of scotch that you got there, buddy. Just hand it, just fill the glass. I'll give you a 20-minute sermon for that full glass of $200 scotch. Thank you.
Man, you're cheap.
Pour me 2 fingers of that old Macallan. Yeah.
Oh no. Not for a whole prayer. Not for 20 minutes. I gotta have like 6 fingers, man.
Wait, is this one prayer Canadian or US?
Is it one American Eagle or one maple syrup?
There you go. Anyway. So if you want to check out the article, you're more than welcome to check out the article about the different ways you can survive the holidays.
And if you could always just take my approach because I have a very conservative family on my side, and usually we try to stay away from politics because we know that there's somebody who's going down the path of becoming a Canadian version of Alex Jones without the website. And we just don't bait. We don't throw out buzzwords because those words always become a tangent. Like you can't say global warming. You can't say taxes. You can't say liberals. You can't say NDP. You don't throw those words out. You just walk away.
Am I the only person that would actually like to see what Keith's version of a Canadian Alex Jones would be?
Nope.
I think
I think we're all in on that.
Just imagine me 25 years older and conservative.
No, I still can't. Actually,
Yeah.
one of these years, Keith, I'm going to come to your family Christmas just so I can see it. Like, you're not that far. You're in fairness, you're really not that far away from me. And I like Canada and I have a passport. So I think it would be a fun road trip. Like right now, I don't know if it's snowing up there right now, but it's not snowing here. So
it is today.
You need a passport.
You're far enough.
Well, you got to have a modified license, yeah, or a passport.
Oh,
you can get out, but you can't get back in.
I went to Windsor with nothing. Well, it's been a while. That's true.
Yeah.
It's a new
they
thing.
changed the rules not too long ago, but you can get out real easy. It's getting back in that gets harder.
Wait, hang on. Wait, where in Michigan did you say
no,
you were?
I gotta stay in Windsor and get
Grand Rapids.
healthcare. What do I
Grand
do?
Rapids. Where the hell is that in this damn state? I don't know geography.
Right here.
Dude.
No, that's too high, bro. No, you're yeah, left.
Second crease.
Left.
It's something I'm gonna have.
A
I
little
have
bit
to get
farther.
used to it now. Like I can't do the
there's Grand Rapids. I found it.
anymore.
Right there.
I can't do the mitten anymore for like the Ohio. I
Yeah.
can't like.
You want to know what we used to do
It's
for Ohio? Yes, exactly. That's what we used to do for Ohio. Nope, exactly what Boyce did. I lived in Ohio, except for it's the other way.
Yeah,
Like I'm in Sandusky.
And I was in Toledo, so I was like right here. That's where I was. Remember,
Knuckle
I'm from
deep.
Ohio, bro.
You're knuckle deep in Ohio, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well then.
Anyway,
I'm gonna have to use that as a description now for where I am in Ohio. Are you first, second, or third knuckle deep into Ohio?
dude, you ain't knuckle deep. You're like bottom thumb deep. That's where you
Whoa.
are.
That's a niche tag on Pornhub. If
I'm
ever
all
I've
the way
heard
to
one.
the wrist. There's a hashtag for that.
Anyway, moving on. For the science segment this week, I wanted to talk about an article that came out at the beginning of the year. And it's kind of funny because we didn't cover this, and I don't know how we missed this, but this showed up in my Reddit stream. And I was like,
this is one of the ones that we talked about in the show between just the two of us too. We didn't talk about the actual show. It's one of the ones that I brought up, but yeah.
Yep. And so scientists have witnessed a single-celled algae evolve into a multicellular organism. So think about that, right? Think about that. Because the big thing here is a lot of people will sit there and say evolution doesn't exist. It's not a thing. We can't have, it can't happen. But here, people have actually witnessed this. And the idea here is, and this is one of the big points that creationists like to make, is they say you'll never see anything go from a single cell to a multi-cell organism. But here, we actually have scientists from the Georgia Institute of Technology and the University of Montana, and they've captured it in a time-lapse footage.
Oh, I see. 50 weeks.
Is there audio?
I didn't add the audio.
Okay, yeah. So pretty much they're using the same model that they've used for speciation. We've seen this happen many times they like to use small single-celled organisms or really simple organisms like this because their life cycle time is very short. And so one of the biggest issues with dealing with speciation and evolution is that it takes so long for these things to happen, and so you need tons and tons and tons of generations, and you're not able to see that with the long lifespan that complex organisms have. So they've using one small single-celled organism or bacteria and algae, and they'll take them and put them in two different places and go through an absolute huge number of generations, so that then they check to see if they're able to interbreed, and if they can no longer interbreed, that's usually one of the major indicators of speciation, but they can no longer produce offspring. And they're using the same kind of time scale, same kind of study, it looks like, to see if they can have enough generations and cycles where they're able to increase their complexity. And that, I mean, this holds true that through experimentation and through actual science, they would be able to discern these types of behaviors. It's just nice that they have I don't know how it says 50 weeks. So I didn't see how many how long it takes for a full cycle, but like I know that algae, if it has enough light, is a really voracious spreading I guess life form.
Well, that's the thing that I like about this is that they're talking about how, you know, there's 750 generations, like, but
Okay, that's what it was.
that's in 50 weeks. So like 750 generations, think about that in like a human scale. It's a generation is what, 20, 25 years?
Well, yeah, somewhere around there. I mean, in the past it was shorter. Now it's longer. It's closing in on 30s. But
Right.
yeah.
So if we say on average it was about 16 to 20 years, maybe then is that? Do you think that would be more fair than Hannah?
Yeah, I mean, well, just even using the conservative end on the like a 30-year point right now, it's a 30 times 750. That's 22,500 years that it would
Exactly.
take.
So if you extrapolate that out and you think about that's only 22,000 years, if you now we talk evolution in terms of billions of years, like that's one of the things that really drives me nuts about people who are like denying evolution is, well, one thing can't become another. How do you go from single cell to multi-cell? And you're like, well, hold on a second, buddy. You think the world is only 6,000 years old, so you're include enough generations. So
Hello.
there's a reason why you can't grasp the concepts that I'm addressing is because you literally are not thinking on the scale. You're completely cutting it off at 6,000 and saying, nope, couldn't happen. Nope, definitely.
Well, they're saying that
happen.
none of the evidence that we can find, and it's really easy to find. They're saying that none of that exists. Like there is a ton of evidence, but it's really difficult evidence to understand, and it's scientific. It's not very clean and clear and easy to read. Like the number of people that can go, the number of people who would in their free time or in a decent learning capacity want to take a look at an article like that and just read through it and just go through it and be like, oh, that's pretty cool. Wow, 750 generations. That seems like a long period of time. Like to consciously think about what's going on in the experiment and then apply that to long time or short time. You know, like the whole point of, oh, it works for these 750 generations of this small creature. But since humans were obviously modeled after the supernatural, that we are separate from that world, whatever, way they want to create that logic pump. In the end, what it always comes down to is whether or not you call science applicable to all species and all physics throughout the entire universe, or if there is some kind of supernatural divide somewhere, or if they just ignore it completely. And this is a great case, and this is using this particular type of study in a different way that I haven't seen before, as far as looking for increasing complexity. And that's actually really nice to have. This will be another tool that I add to the repertoire for people who basically distrust any scientific findings that I keep in my mind, just for this is why
your reference.
Whatever. Yeah.
So you can be the actually guy.
Well, there's also the real life stuff happening with like children that are put in different environments under different stresses, and you can show how the body quickly adapts. So through adaptation, you can do some slowly indications of how evolution could be done generationally by a similar stress over a prolonged period of time. Like this young lady, her parents were both professional rock wall climbers, and they had her climbing since she was like, before she could walk, she was developing hand strength, core strength, leaner muscle, longer limbs. So by the time she was like 12, her arm length and her finger span was like 60% more than most people her age. And her body mass was super lean because she climbed a lot. And her fingers were abnormally large. And her grip was significantly higher than everybody else in her age group. And she could beat the world record holder or the world champ by like 20%, 25%, just in one human lifetime or pre-adolescent. Really. It showed how her body adapted to the stresses within her own life. Now, if you had another person, a male just like that, and then you keep generating these offspring that keep breeding together with these same stresses, you're going to have people with longer arms and longer fingers and a totally different physiological appearance, still the same DNA, but over thousands of years. Of course, that's when you're going to have where the DNA differentiates enough, like Chris was saying, that you can't populate or fertilize whatnot.
Yeah.
Well, and
I mean, just look at dogs and everything. I mean, you can breed in traits you want to keep. Animal husbandry is not uncommon, and everybody likes to think that it's not evolution. You're using all of the tools that evolution uses. The only thing is just that you're not increasing complexity, and you're not driving those two components so far away that they can't breed anymore. But everything else these are all the tools that are available.
Well, that's how evolution is described. It's the non-random selection of random mutations based on environmental stressors.
Yeah, survivability.
And the people who can adapt, or the organisms that can adapt best to the stressors of that environment, are the ones who are going to, survive, procreate, and their genetics are going to keep getting passed on and passed on and passed on and passed on. And like as Chris was saying, talking about the girl who started rock climbing as a wee little lass. That's something that, working in the world of fitness, that I can demonstrate with people. Is I've got literally 2 different pictures of mine that were taken 3 years apart, where you can see that my shoulders have broadened by a couple of inches just because of the different ways that I engaged in my physical fitness. I went from, just, kind of working out to get bigger muscles to working out in strength training, which increases your bone mass and helps to, strengthen your joints and all of that. So all of these different environmental stressors, they will change your body based off of your genes.
So
we'll also think about psychological mimetics too, like your memory, your genetic memory. Like every time that 2 of the smartest people who were able to survive better with solving any kind of physical problems when it comes to it, the next thing you know, you have the smartest people reproducing, and then there's this huge gap between the human mind and the intellect and the nearest natural competitors. These are not unheard of developments when it comes to physical phenomena. I mean, I honestly think that you can train the brain and you can grow brains, and it wouldn't surprise me that is just as possible.
You got to fix your Raz, right?
Well, the brains are in and of themselves are a phenomenal way of demonstrating the way environmental stressors can impact our bodies. I mean, you can damage specific parts of the brain, and then whatever is going on is whatever is missing from their brain, other parts of their brain will try to pick up the slack and try to adapt.
My vision and hearing and my nasal and taste, I don't know. I don't know if I see, hear, or I know I don't hear. If I don't smell or taste or see differently than anybody else, but I do know some things drive me crazy when the sensual things, because I don't have hearing. I mean, any of that kind of stuff.
Frozen drives you crazy. We know that. If you listen to the pre-show, you can definitely check that out.
I think that might just be intrinsically connected to Disney.
Could be. So I don't know. I really like this topic, and I liked it because if we get into a holiday discussion and at a party about evolution, I can bring this.
Hear about that algae,
baby.
Yep. I got it. I got it saved on my phone. I got a podcast on it. It's awesome. You all check it out.
Well, I always go back to dogs with selective breeding too, to say, well, we can't. You show me a monkey and a human. Why there's still, that whole stupid ass approach.
Why did chimpanzees still exist or whatever?
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, so a wolf and a pug are the same thing, just different characteristics through selective breeding. They're still dogs. They share a common ancestor, the wolf. They're dogs. Common ancestor, primates, humans.
Our common ancestor with primates looks more like a primate.
We're like the Chihuahua compared to a fucking orangutan and shit.
Same why? Thing. Why you got to do me like that, man?
Okay.
I mean, I've met enough people that are as yappy as a Chihuahua. And
how about a bonobo? We can't control our sexual drive.
True. God, is that true?
They have sex for everything. Anyway.
I mean, if you look at Greek mythology, we are basically bonobos. We'll have sex with anything.
Oh, all right.
Greek mythology to realize that? I thought it was just like
Tuesday.
I was like,
no, that was just the
half of the internet
early
proves
he's Canadian. He's got moose. He's got snow. He don't care which.
Moose have legs for days.
Oh.
Okay. And those antlers, they give you good handles.
They're all
you got some long hand. You got some long arms.
Plus, they're furry, so they're warm.
All right, moving on
Yep.
to the next segment. Let's talk about Trump's impeachment.
Yay!
You why are you
What?
groaning? You should be excited by this. I mean, we've talked we come on, man. Like we go
We beat
through
this dead
this.
horse.
This is not a dead horse though. Like you could say it's a dead horse. There has to be a discussion about it. We have to
Yeah.
discuss this because new things have happened. We've ignored this for 3 months. 3 months we've remained silent on this. Completely. We've ignored the whole thing, said we're not going to talk about it. We made fun of Trump a little bit.
Little
bit.
I
But
can't help it.
yeah, I agree with you. It's hard not to make fun of Trump, especially if you go through his Twitter. If any of you looked at his Twitter in the last 3 days?
No,
Negative.
but now I'm going to.
After
Seeing
he
as
was
I had it
done
open.
yelling about Greta, I kind of stopped. Because I
That's
mean, a
disgusting.
dude that's that threatened by a young child, I just.
But
eh,
it's not just him though; it's that entire ideology. I
know.
mean, but if his populist base was behind her, he'd be the first one to get in behind her and acting like he discovered her and did everything to make sure she came to power and her ideas were his ideas and they were best ideas, the great ideas.
So Tanner, what has he been doing of late, of recent, while I was
He's just doing a lot of
enjoying
retweeting, apparently.
He does a lot of yeah, he does do a lot of retweeting. A lot lately. But essentially he's now making fun of anybody and everybody, right? He wants to say this is what he says. He says broke all-time stock market record again today. 135 times since my 2016 election win. Thank you. It's like, all right, cool. Then he has Nancy Pelosi is looking for a quid pro quo from the Senate. Why aren't we impeaching her?
Yeah, I did hear
Oh
about
my
that.
god! Do you not? You can't impeach her. You
Him
can't
not
do this.
understanding very well.
Like seriously, how do you not know what's impeachable and what's not?
He's not in the know.
Like part of the entire what is it? Part of the entire plausible deniability of all of his argumentation when it comes to why he does something that isn't allowed into the 4th year now is that, oh, I'm not a politician. I don't play by the rules. I don't know how they usually do these things. That's why I did that thing that isn't allowed. Or that's why I didn't understand how government works. Like he actually intentionally plays into the I don't know how these things work. And then when he has something that he wants to get done, he says that he's an expert who knows all of the things. It is really what it is he's an opportunist, and so he'll play the dumb card when he needs to, and he'll play the smart card because he thinks he is. And in the end, what it does is whether or not his handlers have properly put food in the trough in the right location, so that he's well maintained and directed in down the right hallway for that afternoon. In the end, it's just there. You know, I mean, he is. It's all him. It's all ego. It's all specifically for him. So whatever it is he's doing, it's if you look to who's getting or how it will benefit him the most, then you can trickle back down. So like anything that he's like supporting that is way down the end of Republican ideology or something, the reason he's retweeting it is he's been told that his supporters like it. Like it's it's the face of Janus, right? Like whatever works, and whichever side is the one that your supporter wants to see, that's the one he'll give you. And I don't know, and it's Twitter. It's Twitter.
Well,
I don't look at Twitter for
whatever needs to be true for him in the moment. Is I was hearing the person who actually wrote his art of the deal for him in an interview was
guy.
God, I now I need to find this to make sure that I'm not just talking out my ass and misremembering something. Was saying that for him, whatever is true in the moment is the truth. That's just the way he is. Is whatever he needs to be true is whatever he puts forth as the truth. And honestly, that's kind of how his Twitter feed is no matter what he's saying, what he's doing, it's the truth.
That guy's name is John Kelly.
John Kelly.
It says the ghostwriter of President Donald Trump's best-selling book, The Art of the Deal.
Well, the thing is too that he is protected by our. Well, I don't say protected, but he's luckily that our laws are the way they are for the president. That if he says something that's in confidence, that's like a confidential document or a top secret document, if he mentions it in public or around an official, it's automatically declassified because he has that authority to be like, yeah, just this weird thing where he said so many things that are totally classified. He just puts them out on Twitter. I'm like, holy shit. When have you ever woken up and said, I wonder what the government's done today and the president has done to embarrass us on a daily basis? And he comes through.
He does. If you look at some of the other stuff, we can scroll down.
Retweet. Big thing.
It's retweet. Let's scroll down. We go back. We can go all the way back to the 18th, right? He's got a lot of tweets. Holy crap. He definitely tweets more than Cellar Door Skeptics.
Tweets more than I do.
And nobody listens to Buddy Lumberjack, which I think you can find
at Buddy Lumberjack.
At Buddy Lumberjack.com. So he has this tweet, right? Trump leads in general election. And he has him. Happened yet. And
Trump leading Republican in general election.
It's just a picture. This is definitely this. He says this is from U.S. Today, Suffolk University poll, right? So hold on. Let's go look this up. I don't know how long it'll take me, but we're going to go look up the poll because that's crazy, right? I don't even understand if that's true and that really happened.
And I'm skeptical.
Here's something that I ran into the other day. And I saw this I don't know exactly what day it was, but Trump's most tweets in a single day is 115 tweets in a single day. And so let's just give it a nice quick assumption that let's say he, in the typing process, reread it a couple of times. It took 2 minutes per tweet. That's 230 minutes or 3.8 hours of Twitter in a day for the guy who's in charge of all the things. And
at least
whose schedule is usually managed down to the minute. And this is what's happening during an impeachment hearing, impeachment proceedings. He's just freaking out on a social media platform because that's entirely what it comes down to. That it's the dog and pony show. It isn't who's the most factually suited to be in charge, who's got the best handle on the stuff. It's just, can you control the narrative? Can you be a TV guy? Then that's what it's just. I don't know. Running through these types of things, looking at what's been going on, I've heard more about what he's been saying online more than what the depositions of the people who were considered witnesses in the impeachment hearings. I've heard more of him yelling about that than I have of what they said. This is this bombshell, groundbreaking thing that was told. I haven't heard a lot of the details and information from those proceedings. I just hear about who's yelling about it. We're not basing our decisions and all of this and the reporting on the information that was divulged. We're basing it on everybody's spin of it. And it's just, I really wish that the media and everybody would kind of say, this is something that was said. Is this valid? Yes, it's been confirmed that this is true. Here's the pile of evidence for, and here's the pile of evidence against. But everything has to have a spin now. And I can't even keep track of what's the most realistic thing that's been happening is.
Well, who can remember shortly after Trump took office, rather, let's put it that way. That seems less doomish. And there was a representative in the Netherlands that said something on camera. And when he was interviewed later the day, they asked him about it. He goes, no, I never said that. They showed him the clip. He goes, I don't think that's right. That's fake news. He just wrote it off because we are no longer in a world that gives a shit about truth. Not because, video can be doctored and everything. No. Because that's just not true. That's not true. That's inconvenient to my narrative. Therefore, it's not true. And that's all it is.
Literally, I cannot find what he's referring to. I'm dead serious. I do not see some article that shows that picture.
But that doesn't matter.
It doesn't
matter. It supports his narrative.
This is insane to me. I'm going crazy here.
Give my wife 15 minutes. She'll make a graphic that looks just as good as that, and it'll say
I
that
don't care, and
it'll
that's
say
fine.
that it'll
Hey.
say that Chris Tanner is running close third place, but between Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. Like,
That would be kind of cool.
in this area of deep
I'd be
fakes
happy
and all
with that. I'd be happy.
In the era of deep fakes and all that kind of stuff, like, cool, you got a graphic. But like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me that he would share something that is completely and totally unreal at real Donald Trump.
Well, yeah, and that's why we see a lot of these parody articles that were like, wait, is this actually parody or is this true? Like, he is the ultimate Poe. He is Poe's law in person, I think. Because no matter what he does, you have to do a double take as a person who, isn't rampantly and crazily following him. You have to stop and be like, wait, is that true? Like, there was that article, that the parody about the interview with Stormy Daniels after that whole thing blew up, that people were spreading around as truth because it sounded so close to we see him as. Like, in the article, it was talking about how he ordered room service, and instead of pepperonis on the pizza, he wanted little pizzas on the pizza, and he was like walking around the room singing about little pizzas on a pizza. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, wait, that could actually be true. I mean, it was satire, but
so here it is. The poll registered 1,000 voters by landline and cell phone, and they have an error margin of minus or plus 3% points, right? So here you go. So they surveyed. So here it is. What is that? And the survey says, right? It's like the survey of 1,000 people says it's like we could take God, I can't remember that guy's name from that show now. What's that name of that show that
the price
they had
the
family show.
Family Feud.
Family Feud.
There you go. And the survey says,
surveys like this, especially only 1,000 people, like, all you have to do is go to the right city in America, and you can pretty much say, well, 98% of people support Trump.
Yeah. So here it is.
That's all you have to do.
They don't have the pictures. You're right, Hannah. Somebody made a meme. Right here it says this. It just says it. It says that that's the margin between them. So not only is he tweeting things that he feels makes him look good or makes him feel good, he's going about all sorts of other, crazy ideas and crazy things. And this is what drives me nuts, about him being able to use Twitter. That just, some of this shit just drives me insane. He then posts things like, Pelosi feels her phony impeachment hoax is so pathetic she's afraid to present it to the Senate. No, she doesn't. You're putting words in her mouth. You're gaslighting her. That's what he's doing. He's like gaslighting her. And then you come here, he's got to repost something from a black guy, right? Because he's like, there's a black guy that supports me. Gotta support this guy,
Yeah, in the end, really what it comes down to, like, if you look at, I mentioned a few minutes ago about, like, if you go to the right area, you can condition the poll to what you want. I highly recommend people taking a look into Letters to the Young Contrarian for Christopher Hitchens' book.
God, I love that book.
One of the things that's in there, he talks about the poll conditions to polls. There is at no point, anytime a poll is ever truly released that hasn't been conditioned and massaged. And this is even when people are trying to be completely and totally non-biased, there is no way completely to remove yourself. They have double blinds and all that kind of stuff. They try to do their best, but the majority of polls really do have a bent angle, some way, some form.
Well, there's loaded questions.
The way you write the questions, NPR does a lot of stuff where they they form their questions in a very specific way, and then after they release the poll, they say, well, the question could have been a little confusing, it could have been seen this way or that way, and so they're pretty good at doing that. But most places don't spend the time doing that. And if this poll uses 1,000 people, but those people are spread out pretty wide in open region, then it could be considered somewhat of a decent, slice of the American populace is their perspective. But in the end, in all reality, you really have to think about what happened in 2016. There was no chance. Those polls were completely and totally clear. In Michigan, in the primary, Bernie Sanders was like 30%. below Hillary. It was just like, oh wait, no, Bernie just won the entire state of Michigan, and that was like one of the biggest upsets in history, clearing at 538. So the polls are important, but everybody touting this stuff here. We're I think 400 something days out still. Cool, I guess, but Trump loves that kind of stuff. But in the end, in all reality, like there's no poll that's really going to be bringing things into perspective. Using the last election, 2018, and most recent 2019 had some general elections. Those are one of the reasons why people spend so much money in local elections lately, especially for Senate and for House of Representatives for the states themselves, is to get a good benchmark and a dipstick into where the American people are right now. In the end, the polls, Trump would put a lot of face on it, but anybody who skeptically looks at stuff is not going to give a lot of value to that kind of stuff right now.
So I think one of the things we should do is look at what is impeachment, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is impeachment? And there's a video right here that as you can see of what impeachment is, right? And so they say impeachment is a charge. Oh, I guess he talked. What does it take to impeach a president?
Impeachment under the Constitution is no easy.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
You have to allege.
Yeah.
High crimes and misdemeanors.
Yeah. High crimes and misdemeanors.
Which are vague and uncertain.
Yeah. We have all these fancy people. Look at all these people. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. I don't even know if I care about heavy. There's a Republican on the screen. And they talk about, we talk about like the Clinton impeachment, right? He faces Senate trial 2D in history, vows to do job till term's last hour. They talk about the Clinton impeachment. And, it's kind of funny because what was Clinton impeached for?
Perjury.
Lying under oath. Yeah.
Lying under oath. About what?
Sex.
Blowjobs and
sexual harassment.
Yep. And what has Trump been impeached for?
Quid pro quo with foreign adversaries.
So let's talk about really what I don't understand. Why? I'm sorry. This is really bad. Why in God's green earth, if we impeach somebody for a blowjob and lying about getting a blowjob, and I don't want to demonize or minimize Clinton,
perjury.
Perjury charge and the fact that he's a sexist and all sorts of crazy things. I don't want to diminish that. But we have another president that refuses to testify to the House and claims that the House is screwing him over because he's not letting their witnesses in. And once it gets into the Senate, he's basically saying, well, they're just going to shut it down and this is all lies. All right, hold on a second. What's going on here? Because this guy, the guy before you got impeached for lying about a blowjob. You're getting impeached for lying about the fact that you were interfering in overseas democracy.
And trying to get a foreign power to interfere with your democracy.
Or at least add value to his campaign. So one of the issues they talk about through the foreign foreign help and assistance is that he essentially would have used bribery or extortion with external monies that would be helping Ukraine. So we will hold those funds unless you help me, as that is the quid pro quo that they're talking about. And this from everyone that was interviewed, they said yes, this was the case. And in most cases, they, as far as I know, they've been slowly securing the actual transcript of the conversation, which, like Trump's taxes, have been hidden and held down so tight that we were surprised if they would ever see the light of day. But in the end, you are the president. Everything is recorded. Everything you write on has to be kept. Every time when you scribble, man, I got gas this morning, that's going into the national record. That's just how it works with our government. And so, like, anything he's done, and so they have a lot of evidence. And the impeachment itself is just a political thing. This isn't in a court of law, so you don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. Those types of things, those kind of benchmarks, aren't the same. Impeachment itself is a political thing. One of the reasons why Clinton could be impeached over lying about adultery. over lying about doing something inappropriate with an intern. And Trump could almost not be impeached for doing something that would probably get most people thrown in prison if they didn't have a huge band of support behind their base. Like these kinds of things are political events. And so hopefully, if you do, it's apples to oranges as far as comparisons. It's insane that is the case, but that's just kind of how it is. And then the other thing is with this impeachment is that if it goes through completely and totally 100% and it goes to the Senate, Mitch McConnell, who is supposed to be the arbiter of decision making and truth, has already said that he is completely and totally going to work with the president. There is no even remote semblance of a fair trial that's going to be happening here. This is going to be completely given over to partisan politics. And in the end, the question was whether or not the Democrats really needed to do it or should have done it, because there was no win on the Senate. But to basically sit back and take it, that's the debate. Will it help or hurt them more to have done this or not do it at all and just try to beat him in the election? And that in the end, I think that's what really matters here. It's nice to have it. He's the third one in history, and it seems like a little bit of a win. But I don't know if it's going to rally his base and actually make it harder to beat him in the election. These are all things that are scary.
Yeah, that's part of the problem. Is, are we going to see another 2016 where his fan base is so whooped up into a frenzy that suddenly he's doing even better than he did the first go around, and then all of his opponents.
It's not about him or anything he's doing. It's just them winning versus Democrats losing. Like it doesn't matter who would be out there. They could have a red hat that was running for elections.
A red hat?
It is.
Fred Durst. He's going to be vice president.
Oh, come on. No, don't bring back episode 199. I got marks on YouTube for playing that shit.
It's just one of those
most people will give you negative marks for playing that.
So, I mean, think about it. Okay, so what do we do now? And there's a 538 article that talks about whether Americans support or don't support the impeachment. But I think the more important thing is, what have we learned from this, right? We learned a lot. And Boyce, you and I talked about Tulsi.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, she voted present.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel, man?
I don't know. I don't know what the hell her reasoning is for that. Because she's in these. Is she a senator or Congress?
She's a representative.
Yes, she's a congresswoman. Okay. Yeah. So I don't know if she's doing that out of spite or if she just doesn't think it's productive to move forward with the I think is more of the, it's not productive. It's a waste of taxpayers' time and money because you're just going to put them up for impeachment and then nothing's going to come of it. And it's going to really give him more steam coming in. See, totally exonerated. Totally not guilty. It was so easy. Slam.
Well, either way, he's going to say that.
I know, but now it gives them fuel to say, look, they tried to frame me, and thank goodness the Senate was here to keep things in order, not let these crazy liberals run amok and set up a political coup. I've heard him use that word too. This is a coup attempt.
This is a mutiny.
By using the Constitution as a framing for a coup. Yeah, no shit. It's called the judicial system. It's a constitution for a reason. He finds it. Coup.
I would love to just like someone would just ask the president or something and just say like, "Hey, what's the I don't know, Third Amendment?" Just you know what I mean? Like just like cause that's one I listened to a comedian not so long ago and he's just like, "What the like he was talking about something. It's like, it's the Seventh Amendment. You guys know the Seventh Amendment? And then he just said something weird, and it's like, that's the Seventh Amendment, or is it not? You don't know. And like, and that that's what his punchline was, and essentially it's just like they love to tout the Constitution where they believe it supports them, when in most cases they're not entirely literate on the entire thing to begin with, and he would love to do that. Yeah, well, that too.
So she's here, boy. She actually gave a reason.
Yeah,
a video.
She said Trump is guilty of wrongdoing, though in good conscience she could not vote yes or no because the process was too partisan and fueled by tribal animosities that have so gravely divided our country.
Yeah,
bravely.
She's basically saying that everything was predestined before it happened, which is what I said a moment ago. It's like the House, yes, the Senate, no.
Yeah, it's obvious.
Okay, but and this is where I challenge this a little bit, because again, in fairness, I went after and I said, hey, maybe she has more to her than this, but this is like, okay, and I don't like comparing Trump to Hitler to some extent, but we have to look at this in some aspect and say, hey, look, this is like somebody sitting behind the sidelines and saying, hey, I don't believe in this, but I'm not going to vote no because it'll kill my political career. So I'm just going to say, I'm here because I don't know whether I want to vote. I don't want to take a stand. And I'm sorry, to me, this is wimping out. This is like you saying, say yes or no. It's pretty fucking simple. Do you think he did this? No. Do you think he did this? Yes. It's seriously, it's very, very simple. And for you to say, and this is where I get angry, and I get very angry because this is where a lot of white people, especially white cishet males, take the stance. And they sit here and they say, hey, okay, you know what? I don't believe in Hillary Clinton. I'm not going to vote for her. I'm gonna vote my conscience. And it's like, yeah, you know what? Well, shit doesn't fucking affect you like it does everybody else. Go fuck yourself. And I'll say this to anybody. It does not fucking affect you in the same way it affects somebody else. You're not poor. You're white. You can get a job a lot easier. It's serious. And the problem I have is
I've said that a few times. I've said that a few times. Like, whatever happens in the next election isn't more than likely going to affect the three of us that are Americans a whole lot. It'll affect us a little bit, but it would, like any major things that they change or like really attack on when it comes to the cultural side, we might see a little bit of it, but in the end, it won't directly affect us the most. We're not part of the groups that are being attacked.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I say is you can't take this bullshit sidelines. Like, I'm the same way. Hey, look, Andrew Yang, great candidate. Love the guy. Tulsi was a great candidate. Now I'm going to say fuck you because of the fact that you turned around and said, you turned around and you said, yeah, fuck you, because I explicit tag full blown. I'm sorry. Fuck Tulsi Gabbard because you sat on the sidelines of history. And because of the fact that I'm not this big guy that's super like into this whole impeachment thing, right? But I'm saying is, you shouldn't be sitting on the sidelines. You shouldn't be the one in history that says this, especially when you look at it and say, either it says yes or no. Do you check the boxes or do you not check the boxes? And if she would have said no, at least at that point, I could say, hey, I can evaluate whether I believe Trump should be impeached or not. And if you say no and I said no, then I'd say, okay, hey, we're on the same side. But for you to say I'm neutral is literally like the people saying, I don't really like Bernie, or I really like Bernie, but I don't want Hillary. Therefore, I'm going to vote for somebody else. And you know, not to pick on you boys, and I'm not trying to be a dick because you and I've had this discussion before.
Yeah, I voted Gary Johnson.
You did. And you and I talked about it, and we talked about the fact that you were saying, hey, in the next election, sometimes we have to vote blue no matter who because of where our status lies in society.
Yep.
And so I don't want this to be this big dig at you and I or anything. Like, I'm not digging at you.
I don't care. It's not like I took a real stance. I was just like, fuck, whatever.
You did. But the problem is because a lot of people did that, we now have fucking Trump, period. And that's a fact. It is a fact. Ian and I went through the statistics on our most popular fucking episode of Cellar Door Skeptics 2 years ago. We went through that. And the problem becomes is this is where I all of a sudden have to say, Talissa, fuck you. Like, you want to play this middle ground?
Just call her
fuck
Talissa
yourself.
Again.
Yeah,
no, I did not. Tulsi.
Talissa.
Sorry. All right.
Yeah. Talissa.
Tulsi. Yeah. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. You should throw that in the garbage right now.
I knew you'd want to see this. I saw I had to pull it out my drawer.
You can do what you want to do, bro. And I'm just saying is at this point, like, at least if Andrew Yang, I mean, and the big question is what does Andrew Yang say about this, right? And you know, when it comes down to those things, is what does the candidate say? If they aren't willing to take a stance, they should not be put into a position of power. And I'm sorry that people feel differently, but fuck you, Tulsi. You definitely should not be the fucking president of the United States.
No, I think she screwed the pooch with this because you're elected to vote on behalf of your constituency. Period.
Yeah,
That's
you're
why-
elected to take a stand.
Yeah, you're there to voice to give them a voice to the voiceless and to say, I'm here.
Now, I
Move
could
along.
understand.
Is like, why you put me in here?
Yeah, I could understand trying to win over the apathetic centrist vote with that stance, but at the end of the day, like that's still a pathetic stance to take, and that's pandering to a group of people who are just like, I don't really actually want to give a damn. I just want to be the smartest person in the room.
I can hear the presidential speech, 10 o'clock at night on the the national feed. It's like, I am the president of the United States, and I have chosen to simply say here, and then I'm going to let everyone else make the decision for me. Like, it's just in the end, this is not that difficult of a decision. What she's trying to do is she says that I don't like the fact that this is entirely a political thing, and we are so tribal and we are so aggressively partisan right now that you can't make a decision on this because the entire decision making process is messed up. We've talked about that multiple times through this whole thing already. We've also mentioned in the past that when there were disagreements in the Senate, they used to challenge each other to duels and shoot each other in the street. So I will say that's a little less partisan and a little less aggressively tribal than it was, in times of that. But it is more partisan now when it comes to like parties as opposed to just individual groups or something. But in the end, this if it's a political process, and so that's what she's trying to say. She doesn't like the idea that this is entirely a political process, but she's inside the impeachment is a political situation. It isn't a law and order situation. Like, that's the whole point. She's essentially from the inside of a political thing saying she doesn't want it to be a political thing. You can't have it both ways. If this was like in a court of law, then you would have to make a decision, and she would say, well, this is weird because the jury is obviously biased. The juries, the people that are making these decisions are biased.
Yeah.
But this isn't a jury of your peer situation. So her point of contentment is null and void in my opinion, because it's like you have to pick one side or the other, because this isn't I'm not going to do anything about this. I'm just going to vote no or not, just here. I don't think what her stance is the right one to take when you're in the entire thing is nothing but a political statement.
Yeah, and who's to say that they might, like, you got to stack the deck, man, as best you can. And that one less vote could make a difference. You just never know. There's some shit could go down. Trump fondled someone's daughter. Now he's rallied the troops and said, oh, let's get them out. Whatever, like you just never know what could come. And to not place your vote, it just, I don't know.
Well, her one vote it doesn't make a difference in the House. It doesn't at all. Like it's without a doubt, the Democrats were able to push it over, and so her position is kind of like whatever I do here, I will be able to make myself stand out some way, or I can just go along with the progressive wing. I don't really understand her logic. She's betting on something. I don't know what she's betting on, but when it comes to the Senate, like it's her position or stand won't affect that at all.
Well, I think
actual removal.
Yeah, I think the only way I can really rationalize this is to say if I was in her situation, I did that. The only way to come to that position is to say that she's already said she's boycotting the debates. She's not going to go to them no matter what the polling says. And so I think this might be a way of peacefully protesting the whole process, to say this is all a fucking sham. It's a dog and pony show. Just like she stepped down as a DNC vice chair to support Bernie, because it's a fucking dog and pony show. So that's the only way I can really see it rationally making sense. But even so, you've been voted in to place votes, to make decisions one way or another. I don't agree with not voting. Doesn't make.
I always go back to the ending of SLC Punk, when Matthew Lillard basically decides that he's no longer going to be a punk, he's going to be a lawyer. And he says, the only way I think paraphrasing here, the only way I realize that I could affect the machine is actually to affect it from within. She's removing herself from the inside of that machine by taking herself down from the DNC chair position, where she could have had a really strong, she could have been a fighter. The idea of people that resign from positions when they're in administration because the administration is doing things that are harmful for the country. I can't think of a better place I'd rather be, is in a horrible working environment where I fight people who are trying to do the wrong thing all the time. Because the thing that I would be fighting for is actually going to probably save lives and be incredibly important. But some people are like, I'm going to make a decision to quit and then work in the private sector. No, if she really has a problem with it, be in there and really stand for your position. I've never understood that, but like it's what she obviously has a problem with this ever since she's been in the DNC, and it's not a surprise that she would do this. But you can't rage quit politics. You can't rage quit and make a difference.
Yeah,
That's the best way to put it. I like that, rage quitting. Yeah.
I like
Video
that
games.
Fuck you guys. I'm out.
Screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah, man, Cartman is on tonight.
God damn it. Ah.
So we go. Let's go back to the 538 article, right? And they talk about Republicans defending some of Trump's worst conduct, and this is true. They're defending Trump in here, and they're doing it on a partisan basis, which we're not surprised with. I mean, that happened with Nixon, right? I mean, this was not anything new, but eventually people started leaving Nixon during the Watergate scandal. And maybe this is not to the level of the Watergate scandal yet. And I guess I'm going to elicit everybody else's opinion here, and then we can go around one at a time. But let's talk about that. Do we feel that there is enough evidence that demonstrates a bigger investigation that the Senate should be a little bit more concerned about? Or is this just a bunch of people, playing a bipartisan game?
Who wants to start?
I'm going with Hannah.
I'll dive in. Like, in the end, when it comes to like, there is enough, without question. There is enough evidence. One of the things that I've seen is people describing how the impeachment process has been going. It says, okay, so what we have is we have the Democratic Party with a whole bunch of people who will be character witnesses and actual event witnesses. They were there and they heard the calls, and then they're the people that will stake their careers on the line, saying that there's a transcript, there's information that these kinds of things happened, that this kind of misconduct, misuse of power was a thing that happened. And on the Republican side, they have said that all those people are completely and totally lying through their teeth, and they will not and could not and are not true. But they also refuse to go on record saying that. They refuse to actually swear an oath that they will tell the truth and then refute those things. So all the people that are yelling a whole bunch, saying that all of these Democratic witnesses are full of garbage, yet they refuse to take an oath to say that in front of the U.S. government. And so there's one group that's willing to come out, and they put a bunch of people out, and there's also a group of people who say everything is wrong, but they are refusing to put any actual argument and make any kind of case as to why their beliefs are what they are. And so there is plenty of information for the Senate to go in and dig into this. It's a different kind of time, and it's a different kind of topic as far as why Nixon and Trump. But I mean, I think it's a beautiful time to bring out the Christianity Today article that came out this week, where we are finally starting to see evangelicals go, listen, you can maybe kind of sort of justify a couple of things to maybe his support of abortion and our detest of, or his support of trying to ban abortion and our detest of abortion. But if you using the equation, those two things equal, and then Trump does something nasty, you can balance that out. But if he keeps doing nasty things over and over and over and over again, the scale eventually tips to the point where you are no longer able to equate his behavior and what he's doing in this country with the moral values that you have. And so, like, it would be like saying that I support this guy because he is against abortion, and he's also a rapist. You can't, like, what other thing does he support that you can be like, okay, listen, he completely wants to make sure that every child in this country is vaccinated and has education. Okay, whatever ridiculous way you want to set the moral equivalency up,
as long as they're in
the Christianity Today editor, he's stepping down, I think, in 6 days, 5 days, whatever it is. So this was his parting shot, the end of his time at Christianity Today. But the resource, the magazine, whatever they call themselves now, the digital website, they're kind of standing behind it. And there's a lot of people who have been in the Christian moderate that are actually happy. They're really happy with the way this was written. I was listening to a lot of smart people debate it and talk about, these are the things. And they had, like Fox News has their group of pastors they have come on. So I don't know. I really think that if the Senate completely blindsides anything the Democrats have put up, and McConnell just shuts it down and says, this is dumb, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, and it is really a show of partisan support without any actual inkling of an investigation, I do think that would hurt the conservative perspectives. I don't think they could shake it completely. I don't think the average people in this country are willing and able to overlook all that stuff completely. The ones that are more fringy and the ones that are more political are louder, and we kind of like to think that is the entire Republican Party. I don't think it is. I do think that the Democratic Republican Party does have a really good meeting area in the middle when it comes to quality of life and stuff, and this could be an area where that could grow if the Senate just ignores this entire process and just shuts it down.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with you, and that's I don't know. There's a lot of different party lines that we have to deal with here, right? And there's a lot of people that are saying, "Hey, Democrats are sticking together, Republicans are sticking together, this and that." But I'm saying is I'm open for the interviews, right? Fine. Did Pelosi do as much research as she should have? Probably not. Am I 100% for this? No. It's not my personal belief that this is exactly the right time. Some of me almost wishes this would have happened for, say, like in June, right? Let's deal with this in June. Let's let it go towards right at the end of elections. And let's let the verdict come out a week after the elections happen. That would be my personal love of this. And maybe it's just, my bias to say, hey, I really think there's something here. I think that the more we talk about this and the more we research this, there's more to it than what's going on. I will say if there is evidence that Obama or other presidents have done similar things, I don't think it excuses Trump, and I don't think we should ignore it because of that. What I do think, though, is that if we impeach Trump and it does get looked at because of these things, and it is demonstrated that other presidents, let's say in the last 20 years, have done similar things, what it should make us do is look at our political process and say, hey, why are we not reacting to this faster, right? Yeah. And B, why are we not changing laws to fix this? Because if we aren't going to do either of those things, and I feel a little pointy, like from Parks and Rec, with what's her face, Leslie Knope. There, I just watched an episode where like they accuse her of being very judgmental and pointy, and here I am doing the same thing. But if we don't look at it and say, hey, if other candidates or other presidents have done these things, how do we stop it? Because I can't accept this excuse that, oh, Obama did the same things, therefore we should let Trump get away with it. No. It's just disgusting that we have presidents that are doing similar things. And you know what?
Whataboutism is not the proper argument here.
Exactly. And look at it. Like people, this is what drives me nuts. My son brought this up this week, and he's like, Biden was asked in several interviews, and it's kind of funny because, I would have thought my son's not really political, but like he was telling me this about Biden. He's like, yeah, Biden got asked, and he basically shut reporters down who asked him about his son. And I'm saying, hey, you know what, Biden? Look, bro, if you did shit that you shouldn't have done, even if it's been done before and you're being called on it, at least give a statement on it. And I'm saying
you have to be transparent, especially right now.
Yeah.
Oh man.
And think about it. Excuse me. Think about it. At this point, Biden, if you screwed the pooch here, get the fuck out of the way. Get the fuck out of the way and let everybody else have their turn. Because, man, that's the worst thing you could do is try and steal the nomination from somebody else, take all the credit, and then get lambasted by Trump. Even if Trump gets impeached and then the Senate goes nowhere, and then Trump goes, hey, look at Biden, and Biden's like, and then they investigate, and it demonstrates that Biden did these things, and Trump wasn't legally allowed to do what he did, but he went after Biden on a fair basis. God damn it. You know how shitty that's going to look? And so it's like, hey, Biden, grow the fuck up, get off your fucking ass, and walk the fuck out of politics right the fuck now, because at this goddamn time, if we don't have somebody in the candidacy that wants to actually be a representative, you're no better than Tulsi. There you go. I said it right that time.
Good job.
Yeah, it's about time.
You're no better than Tulsi. You're no better than some of these other candidates. So get the fuck out of the way for those that want to play ball, and let's at least have a real goddamn actual election here. Because I'll tell you what, Andrew Yang, when he had his bit this week, we watched the debates. I made my son watch them with me. Well, I didn't make him watch it with me. I just put it on and turned up really loud. And when he was asked a minority question about why he feels he's the only minority on stage, and he came back and said, "This is the big disappointment. This is the hugest disappointment. And where is everybody else out here?" It's like, holy crap, dude. Like, thank you. Where's the rest of the candidates? And the worst part is not only did nobody give any other candidate but one other candidate like a chance to say anything. Like, I think every candidate should have had to answer that question because it would have made a measure of every candidate on that stage. And you cannot like Andrew Yang for some of his things, and that's fine. And I'm not going to tell you he's my favorite candidate, but I can tell you right there, just that one question to me earns more points across the board than every other candidate the whole night. Elizabeth Warren was really good, but Andrew Yang, one question, man, and he just killed it. Off the charts.
Well, I think his best line is just the closer when they asked him about giving someone a gift or apologizing for something he said, and he offered to give him his book because Elizabeth Warren is reading his book. And he's, "I'd like to offer you guys all the book. I think you should all read my book and learn some more about automation and la-da-da." And I was like, okay, that's not a bad little trolly moment there for a moment. He's like, because at first he's like, they asked him that question, he goes, "Wow." He kind of, he's like, huh.
So his first thought was, "I'm just going to promote my shit. Buy my stuff. Peace out."
Yep. And he it's just a nice little troll moment. He's like, "You guys ask me a stupid question, I'll give you a stupid answer." You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the thing right here, you know, and Boyce, you're a little closer to the situation than some of us are, but when you look at it, and it's just him saying, "Hey, look, the worst that's going to come out of this is I'm going to get positioned to make another run at some point," right? The worst thing that'll come out of it. The best thing would be, right, if he, you know, for him, the best thing would be is if he actually got the nomination and he was able to run and he went against Trump. And again, I don't know if we look at the polls and we said, "Hey, he's going to be there, nobody else is going to be there." I don't know. I don't know how to analyze that. That's not my forte. But I can tell you, just coming out and being able to demonstrate to say, look at what I've got to say. I'm open to discussion. I think it's a shame that more minorities are not on stage, that there's just a bunch of bloody white people standing up here, and to say that, where's all the other options? And like, you know, like Bernie has been decent when it came to discussing, you know, minority positions and things like that. He's changed his mind. He's come around to different things. I think the difference is when you look at somebody like Andrew Yang, some of me goes, why are we not looking at these types of candidates and saying some of what he's saying makes more sense and should be more viable in today's environment than what we're giving them credit for? And maybe he doesn't have the experience, and maybe he doesn't have some of these other things, but at least he's coming to the table and being honest. I don't know. I
think they should.
It's a lot of credit.
I think you do have a good point. I think every candidate should have answered that question, though.
Yeah, if anything, asking old white people to ask race questions is just a great thing to watch people go.
See Joe Biden pop another eye blood vessel.
Yeah.
I love when kids bounce on my lap.
You know what Biden's going to say, though. You know exactly what he's going to say. He's going to say, "Hey, look at my record." He's going to say, Obama. "I voted for minorities. I did these things. I did these other things." And
you also voted to put him in jail.
I worked with a black man.
There, exactly. I married, I have minorities in my family. Yeah, he misses the point by that, and that's what drives me nuts. And again, you know, no offense to white people, right? But like, that's what drives me nuts sometimes is people want to gloss over that, and sometimes we're here to listen. Sometimes we are to be in a position where we listen. We open our minds, we open our hearts. I've had to do it more than one time. Trust me. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm definitely not perfect.
Hush yourself.
What?
Hush yourself.
Finally, he admits it.
I've admitted it this whole time, my friend. You can make wisecracks at me, but I'm definitely one of the most open individuals about saying I make a lot of fucking mistakes. I didn't vote for Trump though, that's for sure, and I didn't vote for a third party that put Trump in power either. So there's that little dig there. Shots fired, bro.
Now, boys, he's actually putting that dig at you. Like he said he wasn't for the longest.
Fucker, I'm putting my hat back on, asshole.
Rage quit.
The funny thing is you and I both agree on that aspect, though. Like, I'm actually not opposed to Yang to some extent. Like, again, if it comes down to it, I'd almost rather just see Elizabeth Warren with Bernie as a VP. That's kind of where I go with that. But we've moved so far away from the Trump thing. We're gonna give last thoughts on Trump's impeachment. Like, we have avoided this topic for the pure fact that I don't want to sensationalize the podcast based on, discussing an impeachment terms. But it's here. It's a fact now. And I do not want to discredit it. And, the wife and I have been discussing this actually, quite a bit lately, because there's some scary things going on to some extent, right? We're now seeing Trump's authoritarian, Hitlerish, and I'm going to call it Hitlerish because I don't know what other terminology to use. And if you have a better one, you're more than welcome to tweet at Buddy the Lumberjack and tell us what you want us to say
at
instead.
gmail.com.
At gmail.com. Wait, that's right. You do.
Buddy the Lumberjack at gmail.com. Send your hate mail too. I'm still waiting for it.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we've confirmed Godwin's law twice so far. Continue.
Yeah. And so I'm just saying it's here. We have to face it. Where does that put us? And my big concern or my big point of discussion here is where do we go from here and what do we have to discuss from here? Because we all know that once it gets passed to the Senate's already admitted they're going to deny it. We're going to move on. But we have to take a lesson from it because there has to be talking points that come out of this. Otherwise, this was a fruitless effort in failed democracy, period. So what are the talking points and what are the discussions and where are the facts? How about that? Fuck the talking points. Where are the facts that come out of this?
Yeah. What are the facts?
He was caught soliciting a foreign power to interfere and basically impact the American conscience in such a way that it would favor him to him another election. Like he, in one of the articles that you shared with us, reading one of the pro arguments is that basically in him reaching out to the Ukraine in the way he did, he more or less was saying, right or it's wrong, at least I've planted this seed. I've got this in the American conscience. I have this seed of doubt that people are, all of a sudden they're going to think that, oh, well, he must have done something wrong. Otherwise, the president wouldn't have said anything about the Ukraine or whatever. And it was just an effort to manipulate the public into doubting another side. And some people might say that doubt is really not a big deal. But at the end of the day, that's still manipulation. Deliberate manipulation in his favor. And if you want to sit there and use a capitalist argument of, well, that's just how you win the game. Well, no, that's not how you win. That's not democracy, though. That's just sheer manipulation. That's just marketing. That's running a business, not a country.
Well, he did say he wanted to run the U.S. like a business.
Yeah, and I think I just had a blood vessel burst in my brain thinking about that.
My final thoughts on this entire thing. There's two quick little quotations and segments that I've seen recently. There's the one that we talked about earlier that I think Chris alluded to, is that when they came for X group here, I did nothing. When they came for X other group, I did nothing. When they came for me, there was no one left to support me. That quotation is known specifically and usually tied to World War II. And then there's another one that just said that someone's out protesting on the corner of a street with a sign, something that really means a lot to them, and they're on the corner. And this could go to both sides of any kind of political spectrum, as if there was only two directions it could go. But it's just, why are you protesting? There's no way anything you're doing could ever make a difference. You're one person, and the person's response is simply that I don't protest to change. I protest so that I don't change, that this country doesn't change me. And those kinds of things, those are the perspectives that we kind of have to have when we're looking at something like this. This kind of decision making is historic decision making. 3 times in the United States history since 1776, this is a big deal. And this is something that we knew it was going to be a fight. I didn't think it would take until the last year, but I also didn't think that it would come down to foreign support and things like that as like an actual basis for the argument. I thought it would be something that he would do just that would be grotesque and just abominable when it comes to sexuality or doing something just against the grain that way. I didn't think it would be political campaigning and stuff like that. But this kind of thing here, since this is like there's already laws on the books that says that this type of thing is illegal, that I do think this is a solid case and that it definitely needs to be put forward, if anything, to prove that Democrats are going to sit on their butts and just let it ride out. And that because if they did nothing, that would only embolden a president who's already pushing the boundaries of what is considered allowable for an authority in power, an authority in power. But and if you let them keep pushing, if the restrictions and the checks and balances that the forefathers in this country set up keep getting pushed, I honestly think that it will eventually reach a tipping point, a Gladwellian tipping point. Like Malcolm Gladwell always says, there will be a tipping point where the United States democracy is transformed into something for the worse, and that tipping point will end the empire. Because if you look at it, our country has one of the oldest operating constitutions in existence right now. There aren't too many other countries that have a constitution that's been operating as long as ours has. They've all been kind of modeled after ours, after this grand experiment. But there is no thing that says that democracy and representative democracy is the way. And actually, in most of history, it's always been a authoritarian regime that has run societies, and the idea of a secular society not based on religion, or the might is right. That may be the actual way that humanity will go, and that'll be the thing that works for the next 10,000 years. Who knows? But like this could be a tipping point with if you don't push it and try to take a guy who's obviously doing things that are incorrect out. When do you do it? And so I honestly think pushing this to the edge, and hopefully the naysayers will question in the Senate and at least give it the time of day.
Yeah. I don't know. I would just say that we need to rethink our Constitution. It might need a little updating. Since this is supposed to be a living, breathing document capable of evolving with the times, and it hasn't. The Second Amendment needs to be updated. The First Amendment needs to be updated because of social media platforms, because of the internet. All the amendments need to be rethought of, or even like some rules, like what's that called? Where you have to vote the law back in after 4 or 5 years or 10 years, whatever it is. It's a sunset law where you have to reapprove a laws. That was like missionary in Georgia. It's illegal to have any sex that's not missionary. It's still on the books.
Oh, the blue laws.
There you go. That's
what they call those.
Sunsetted, but they should be revisited. Does this still apply? Little things like that. We need to really rethink the system, because it worked up to a point, and now we're at the point where if we have one psychopath that is capable of acting like a legit gangster and mafia bossing the Senate, that's all he needs. And we've got to find a new way to get that checks and balances in place to prevent this from happening again, where either side, left, right, middle, whatever the hell you want to call it, current two-party system, I think, is outdated as well. We should be going to ranked choice voting and having more than two parties. We need to really think our democracy as far as getting the money out of politics. This wasn't invented to have politicians being bought. All these things need to be revisited. We need a revolution. And that's why I think Bernie Sanders has such a lead. Honestly, I support Yang, but Bernie is a revolutionary.
Yeah.
And
prepare for the revolution.
Ooh.
Yeah. I think that he has the best
Hannah
chance of starting the revolution, because he has 40 years of consistency, man.
And I think if anybody, like the candidates that are running, I do think that whoever's going to be the nominee does need to have a very firm stance on this impeachment. They need to, without a question, it needs to be clean and clear, because they're going to be running on or against this whole platform. If you're going to be a Democrat, if you don't wholly support what they did and wholly support going through the impeachment process, when you're running, if you didn't support it, think about it. Like, where's your opposition position? What is the way that they're going to spin that? Like, this is something that needs to be, it needs to be completely closed and sealed before the election, and the candidate who gets the nomination really needs to have a solid position. The wishy-washy stuff, like especially what Tulsi has shown, or the solution that she has come up with is confusing at the least, and it's political dodgery at the best. It's just, those aren't the kind of answers we need right now. There may not be a really clean and clear answer, but we're gonna have to work for it, and it's not gonna be easy. I know that for a fact.
Is there a candidate that doesn't support the impeachment?
Not really, but some people are kind of quiet about it. Like, Biden's not rattling the cages about it or anything like that.
Yeah, he ain't got no room to talk. He should be going right there with him. That's ridiculous. He's part of the problem. Yeah. Considering Pelosi and Schiff and Biden all have children on the same board is kind of suspicious.
Oh, I know. Well, that's the other thing when it comes to the evidence. Like, I would bet you, I would honestly put money down in Vegas that previous campaigns are all over this. Without question, Dick Cheney, his fingers are all over Middle Eastern oil. What did they do? They attacked Middle Eastern oil right out of the gate. Mm-hmm. Obama, maybe not him tied directly because his family hasn't been in politics as long, but I guarantee you that part of his cabinet and all that, like, there's all kinds of stuff, because this is politics. Mm-hmm. As soon as they get out, they become lobbyists and all that kind of stuff. But I would love to see that kind of transparency in all of this. Like, there should not be any backroom deals or anything like that.
When they call that soft corruption, I'm like, how the fuck? Yeah. You're just making up words now.
It's trying to alter the language to downplay.
Yeah, control the narrative. Typical shit.
So I guess, anyway, is that all the final points for the impeachment here? Is there anything else you want to go over, or you got something to add?
No, I think we've hit every point. I mean, really, the big thing here is we can agree to disagree on whether he should have been impeached at this time or later. But I think we all agree that there is a need for it. And I think that it demonstrates, and, it'll bring out the immaturity of the president, which it already has. I mean, anybody that has to start their tweet out with, making fun of the person before they state a fact or what they feel is a fact, like, that right there just says, come on, man. Like,
anybody that can tweet for 2 to 4 hours a day.
There you go. Because Cellular Skeptic sure as hell has 4 people on this podcast, and none of us have 2 to 4 hours a day to tweet. Period. It just doesn't happen. So, and we're not the president of the United States anyway.
We have way less responsibility.
No, I don't know about that. Anyway, so we talk about, as we wrap the show up, we want to talk about what are our hopes and dreams for the new year, right? Like, we have to talk a little bit about that, and really we're already at an hour and 50 minutes, so I don't want to spend like another 40 minutes having this discussion, because I think it's important. But what are your hopes and dreams for the new year? What do you want to see? I don't care where it is. It doesn't have to be political. Obviously, this is a very political show. We're all very opinionated, except for the one Canadian who was very polite about his beliefs and his anti-love for BoJack Horseman. The best show ever. But like, to me, my first hope and dream is that Keith and I are going to sit down and actually watch BoJack together. Maybe we'll even stream this together.
Live stream you watching it. There you go.
Yep, we'll live stream us watching it, and me explain to him why he should love this.
It'll be a long-term relationship date night.
Kind of, yeah. It'll be like Netflix and stream instead of Netflix and chill. Be Netflix and stream.
That's kind of redundant.
All right.
Netflix and Skype?
There you go.
Netflix and Cam. Oh, yeah. No, Skype works better. I like that.
So what are your all hopes for the new year? What do you want to see? What are your big ideas? Like I said, we go all the way back to the beginning of the show where I talked about a show I was on, and somebody asked me, what is the goal of Cellular Skeptics for the next year? So I'm going to challenge the three of you. What is the goal for you when it comes to, working on the show and your personal hopes and dreams for the new year?
Oh, we have 10,000-yard stairs coming out of Keith, and boy, so I'll start.
Well,
Essentially, for me, it is to iron out my life. My life is still so tumultuous and still bouncing all over the place, but I do intend to have my primary vote, and I haven't seen anything go that would drive me out of the Bernie camp, and so I'm hoping that politically we'll finally have a candidate that I've been supporting for about 12 years now, 14 years. And so that's the big thing politically for me. But when it comes to the show, finally getting in, my office is almost up into space where I can spend a little bit more time working on some of the stuff some of the things I used to work on this show for in the science segment version, where I would spend a little more time. My past, Keith can support or remember that what is it, LIGO, the interferometer gravitational wave observatory, and some of the long form scientific research stuff that I used to do on this. I would learn a ton, but it was also, I thought it was really good learning material because everybody can yell about politics, but if you learn something from it, that's great. And then also if you can become more scientifically literate, that's another big thing. It's like, if there's something that you can bring away from this show that you can take to your family to either educate them or to insulate yourself from fake news and damaging perspectives, then that would be a goal and a success in my book for anything that I've done for the next year or just for this show in the general future.
I do remember that. I think I still have that recording on my phone.
I have them on. They're all on YouTube. For Sourdough Skeptics, we have them all on there. But yeah.
All right, buddy. What's your goal for the new year?
Honestly,
what do you hope and dream? What do you want to sleep at night with?
Oh well,
tangerine dreams, man.
No, honestly, I want to keep the ball rolling with some of what I've tried to bring to the show in terms of like the Canadian perspective, sharing more about Canada, because I mean, a lot of the podcast sphere, in at least my circles, is dominated by American politics, and I'd like to bring more Canadian content out there, just to kind of do more than have the stereotype of, yeah, we're the polite neighbors to the north, we have a lot of snow and igloos and beavers and maple syrup, because at the end of the day, at the risk of sounding like a rag magazine, we're just like you. We're just as fucked up. We're just as racist in our own way. We have our own problems, and I'll be brutally honest, like as woke as I've tried to be through my life, I've been very ignorant of a lot of things that have gone on in my country. And, through some of the segments, I have learned a shit ton about my country and everything. I mean, when I did my Truth and Reconciliation, that's something that I want to continue. And I'd like to make that more of a regular topic because, in conversations with my friend Tim that I referenced ad tedium in that episode, there is so much backstory, and as he put it, it is our shared history. It's not just his history, it's our history, because my history isn't just, all the white people and all the things that they brought, but all the people that they may have screwed over, and learning to put history in its proper context as opposed to just focusing on, the pretty parts that make it more convenient for me to remember and celebrate and all of that. And I've really enjoyed being able to do that. I've got a bunch of topics that I've already written down that I'd like to go through in future segments, and I'd really like to get back on to, or I'm going to be getting back on to making that more of a regular contribution to the show, just to talk about Canadian fuckery. And honestly, just it has, and I want to thank you guys for bringing me on here, because it has been very enjoyable. I mean, I know my own show didn't end up doing as well, and unfortunately it's no longer in production. We've decided it's no longer our project due to personal issues in our own lives. I mean, Jen and I are still friends. It wasn't a falling out or anything. It's just that project it no longer suited both of our interests. We still have a lot of respect for each other, et cetera, et cetera. But this has been, in my experience, a lot better for me. I've been more committed to it. So again, thank you guys for bringing me on, and I hope that I can keep bringing something of value to the show. That's my hope for the new year.
Awesome.
Other than smart-ass remarks, obviously.
Smartest remark should be the new hashtag of the show. Hashtag smartest remark.
Yeah.
Boyce, how about you, buddy?
Well, I would say as far as YouTube and podcasting goes, is I'd gladly do this every week with you guys as long as you want me or need me or would like me around for a different opinion. To contribute any way I can, and we can keep having civil discourse. I think that's a great skill set. And as far as my own channel goes, I would love to continue to grow my channel out and, branch off a little more and become a supplementary income and give me something to do in my free time so I don't get myself in trouble. It's very helpful. And I want to inspire my kids. Really, I think this could be something I can show them. You don't have to be overprescribed college to get ahead in life. You can actually pursue your passions and make enough living just to have a good life, a happy life. You don't have to make $100,000 a year to be happy per se. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. I just inspire my kids to follow their passions wherever it may lead. I might not agree with them either, but pursue their passions by pursuing my own, by leading by example. And politically, I just would love to see Andrew Yang become president and get Medicare for all and democracy dollars and the UBI and all that stuff in like a week would be cool, but I doubt it. So
Democracy, bald eagles.
Yes.
The American currency.
In a perfect world. But yeah, I'd say Yang or Bernie would be cool.
So for me, the big thing here is talking about a discussion, right? Having the discussion, opening up the discussion with other people, talking about, what are we going to do? Where are we going to be at? How do we become the new generation, right? That inspires people. And we talk all the time about whether or not society is going to change their views, whether or not people are going to support a orange monster. My hopes and dreams for the new year are literally the fact that I want to see Trump be eliminated from office. And I don't think that it should be this, where we impeach him. I want the impeachment. I don't want him to be removed from the impeachment. What I want is for the Senate to step up. I want the interviews to come out. I want them to spend 6 or 7 months having this conversation. I want that to happen because I want that aspect of life. And you know what? If it comes out that they find him innocent, fine. Fuck it. Let's move on. I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think anywhere near the case that we're gonna see is gonna happen. And that's where I'm at. I'm saying, give me a great debate because that's what I thrive on. We talk about, we talk all the time about Christopher Hitchens on the show, and right, as much as he was a sexist and hated women to some extent and was kind of a conservative when it came to politics, he had really, really good points though about where we can be and what we can do. And for me, what I want to see in the new year is I want our podcast to help you prepare for the revolution in the aspect of, I want you to have a conversation. I want you to reach out to those people that are different than you, that think differently than you, that don't maybe see the world in the same way you do. That's what I want. Because to me, if we're willing to have that conversation, if we're willing to be a part of that point of society, at that point, we as a structural entity can fix things to the point where we get to the ability of having more than one viewpoint. And like in Canada, you have more than one party, right? There's more than one option.
There's more than two parties.
There's more than two parties. That's what America needs to get to. And I think if we do this as a society, if we start challenging people to say, hey, let's get out there, and that's what our show's about. I'm not here to tell you Bernie's the way. I'm not here to tell you Tulsi's the way. I'm not here to tell you Yang's the way. I will tell you, fuck Tulsi, and I'm done with her. And I don't think she can come back from this. But I am here to tell you that there's a lot of other candidates. Like we talk about Bernie a lot, and when we get to it, it's going to be me and Hannah arguing it out about Bernie because the two of us are going to see things in a different manner. But what I'm going to say is, I want to help you prepare for for the revolution. Thank you all so much, and continue to support the show. We'll be back next week with the last episode of the year. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.